The famous president said this: "If I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." That was Abraham Lincoln. I'm Jason Hodge, and today we're going to be talking about how sharp is your axe. You handling your biz? We're going to be right back after this, and I want you to take in this song. I'm going to let this whole song play out, and mainly because this particular song, it's one that I like to do a lot of movement exercise to it. It's going to set the tone because I think today's broadcast, you really need to have your mindset focused because we're going to be talking about some really cool life hacks and some things that you should really be thinking about when it comes to creating the destiny in your business and in your life that you want. There's going to be 3 things that I'm going to cover as usual, and we'll just kind of dive in from there. All right. Really love that song. And I was going through the music selection this morning and I said, I really wonder what would be a good song for what it is that I'm going to be talking about today on this broadcast. And I ran across this one and I said, you know what, this is the perfect song. I mean, because I think what it does is it helps to really silence the mind, but not to where it puts it to sleep, but to where you actually feel the pulsing of life. You know, when I listen to that song, it reminds me of, like, you know, when you're looking over mountaintops and you're seeing all of the fog just kind of moving around and everything's kind of like encased in this blanket of mist. And there's mystery behind it. It's like you don't quite know what is beyond that mist, beyond the fog, but you know that it's something, and there's this ominous feel to it, and you know that, you know, when the Lord created everything, it was purposeful and purposed. It was on target. So all of that is what I get when I listen to that song. I just think of the awesomeness of creation itself. So today, I wanted to focus in on the topic of how sharp is your axe. And let me tell you a little backgrounder on this. You know, I spend a lot of time working with systems, putting things in place, strategizing. When I meet with clients and friends and folks who will hit me up on social or call me up, you know, I tend to do a lot of troubleshooting and diving into the inner workings of what it is that they ultimately want to achieve. And as a media planner, you know, I'm perfectly fit for that. But I realized that I spend more time sharpening my axe than I do actually cutting down the trees. And so as I was setting up a new tracking system for different links that I put out and all of that, you know, I was going through doing the troubleshooting because it's a new platform. We're relatively new platform. And so they're making their own tweaks. And I got a call from the owner earlier this morning. I was knocked out and the phone rings and I'm like, okay, who is this calling me from Canada? So I answered the phone and of course didn't recognize the voice because this was the first time that I talked to the owner. However, he had called me and responded to a trouble ticket that I had put in when I noticed there was some glitches in the system. And, you know, I had done another broadcast and I noticed that, you know, quite a bit of traffic had hit that link, but it was not directing properly. So I, you know, went in, did what I could do in order to fix it, and I eventually got it fixed. But he was calling to respond to that because, you know, some of the things that I pointed out, he wanted to talk further about it to see, okay, well, how can, you know, we put the proper workarounds in place and, you know, do his due diligence to make sure that the product was up to par, you know, as they are moving into their launch into the greater marketplace. And, you know, of course, that moved into a longer and a deeper conversation on what it is that, you know, I could see for them and what it is that, you know, I felt that they could do to improve their platform. And mainly it was for selfish purposes because I wanted to make sure that the tools that I'm using are as sharp as possible because I don't want to spend more time than I absolutely have to on getting a tool up and running so that when I am working in a process or in a project that I can just reach for the tool and it works immediately. So the thought came to my mind of Abraham Lincoln's statement on how he would take 4/6 or 2/3 of the time spent actually getting the tool, sharpening it, you know, making sure that it is just efficient, well, you know, oiled and just ready to go, as opposed to just taking a blunt tool to go to do the work of chopping the tree. And I think so many times we can easily move into a tactical play as opposed to a strategic play when it comes to our businesses, when it comes to our lives as well. You know, I've heard the saying on more than one occasion, how you do anything is how you do everything. And, you know, it's kind of funny, but I am seeing that is actually, it has a lot of truth to that, is that you can find, where your strengths and your weaknesses are by how you do one thing. And you look at that one thing and you see how it overlays on how you do everything. So let me go into the 3 points that I'll be discussing today, and then I'll go back through as usual and break down those points and expound on them, give you some stories, and then move back into, the topic at hand. Okay, so my 3 points. The first point in the whole, how sharp is your axe, is to invest in the smartest tools that your money can buy. Get the smartest tools that you can afford to get the job done. Most of us tend to play on the cheap side when it comes to that, and we end up getting inefficient tools that end up costing us way more in the long run than if we would just put enough together in order to get the one that's going to knock it out of the park. You want to knock the ball out of the park. Okay, the second point is to set yourself up for success. Sounds kind of cut and dry, but I've got a little bit more of a diatribe on that. And then the third one is to shut off the outside distractions. And I've got a lot to say about that. Okay, so now let's look at the tools. Now, you can invest now in the right tools, or you can pay dearly later. I've had many conversations with clients who are trying to save a few dollars here and there. And so they will cut short on their tools. They'll cut short on their marketing. They'll cut short on those things that are specifically geared towards building their business in exchange for saving $5 right now. What they don't seem to realize is that the $5 that they save right now could very easily cost them $500,000 later. It's just the fact of the matter. Because when you think about it, say that your tool that you can get is a $10,000 tool, but that $10,000 tool will take care of 100 tasks. And there are many tools out there that will literally do that. It'll take care of 100 tasks, and it'll take care of it again and again and again. So every time you use it, you are now taking 100 tasks off of your plate, off of your to-do list. Without the tool, however, say that you say, well, let me get this tool over here. And okay, it may only take care of 10 tasks, but what it will do is it'll save me a few $1,000s. Okay. So it saves you a few $1,000s. So let's say that it saves you half. Let's say that you can get the $10,000 tool. The $10,000 tool, to take care of 100 tasks, or you can get the $5,000 or even $2,000 tool that will take care of 20 tasks. We'll give you 20. Okay, no, let's say with 10. Okay, we'll stick with 10. All right, so 2,000 for 10, 10,000 for 100. Okay, you're doing the math now. You're already in the hole because now in order to do the same 100, that $2,000 tool will have to be implemented 10 times. So 10 times 2,000 is going to be $20,000 that it actually costs you to run that $2,000 tool. Whereas you could have spent the $10,000 on the tool that will handle 100 tasks, and now you've saved yourself you've saved yourself $10 extra thousand because you have to pay double on the cheaper tool. Not to mention that as you run that, it's going to take you 5 times the amount of time to handle the same 100 tasks as it would for you to press the button on the $10,000 tool. So now that tool that you saved, quote unquote, I hold the quote signs up on my fingers, you saved $8,000 on, has just cost you $90,000 more. And my math may be a little shaky on that. It may have cost you more, but we're going to say $90,000 more. Now, let me tell you how I do that math. Okay, so we already know that it's going to take you 5 times the amount of time to handle the same amount of work. By the time you handle the same amount of work, you would have out-of-pocketed spent $20,000 for that, right? Or $20,000 worth of time and energy. You spent $2,000 on it, but it's going to cost you 5 times the amount of time, right? So now, not to mention wear and tear, and that tool may break down faster depending on the dynamics of the tool. If it's a physical tool, then you've got attrition. It's going to break down eventually, unless it's built very well, and so that means that you're going to get it from a country that will actually build things well. Now, you take that extra time, and so that means that you've got to continually implement that tool over and over and over again. So by the time I hit the button on the $10,000 tool to handle the 100 tasks, I hit the button on the 20, then on the 2000, the 2001, the $10,000 machine finishes, the $2,000 machine that finishes. Say that they finish at the same time. Now, you hit the button on the $2,000 machine to handle the next set of 10. And then I hit the button on the $10,000 machine to handle the next set of 100. Well, by the time you have caught up to the 100, okay, that the $10,000 machine gives you in one push of a button, the $2,000 machine is already in the hole because it's only done 100 tasks, and the $10,000 machine in the same time has done 1,000. You see? So you will actually never catch up in productivity and efficiency using that $2,000 machine. Because pound for pound, the $10,000 machine is going to outplay the $2,000. It's going to outperform it. And so now your investment has cost you, by the time all is said and done, potentially millions that you can never recover. Was it worth it getting a dull axe? Now, for me, that's a no-brainer answer. The answer is no. It wasn't worth it. You may think different. I don't think so, but you may think different. Moving on to the next one. Setting yourself up for success. Well, that would dovetail the first point, the investing in your smart tools. We're going to call them smart tools. Investing in your smart tools. That's setting yourself up for success. If you have the ability to get immediate momentum on the growth of your business, your learning curve, whatever it is, why would you take the slow route? It's the difference between, it's like the equivalent of saying, okay, you need to get to a destination by a given time, a set time frame. That destination, however, is miles and miles away. You could walk, run, bike, take a car, a train, a plane, a jet, or a rocket. Or you can be transported there immediately through some new space age technology, microwave technology. Okay? Now, if you're on a time frame, and time is money, which in business it is, how much time can you afford to take in getting the job done, especially when you're in a competitive marketplace? Do you spend the money or invest the money in the proper tools, or do you reinvent the wheel by walking? It seems cut and dry. It seems very easy, very simplistic to answer that question. But unfortunately, we see it in the marketplace daily that people are opting to walk when they could be transported there. What's that transportation method look like? Well, the transportation method can look like a number of things. It can look like mentorship. It could look like buying a high-end, a high-ticket training or whatever that also comes with an open door to rub elbows with the movers and shakers inside of your industry, to where you've got the red carpet rolled out, you've got access to resources, information, and what's the other thing? Actual closed contracts, because all the other stuff is just a formality. But once you're in the club, now you've got contracts that you can close left and right, day to night. Or you can walk, miss the function, never get in the door, never rub elbows, never get known because you're not in position, and therefore all of your efforts was just an exercise in how fast you can spin your wheels. Some things you can't work your way into. Some things you have to just be there. You've got to take the microwave transport system. So that's setting yourself up for success. You've got to find out what elements, what key portals do you need to go through in your industry in order for you to have a successful run at your success, at your ability to flourish and your ability to dominate in your space inside of your industry. What is the key to that success? Got to answer that question. And this last point here is to shut off the outside distractions. Now, I was going to say the outside, and I was trying to think of another word for it, but distractions are exactly what it is. And what does that look like? Okay, so now you may have folks in your life, circumstances that come up, and these folks may not necessarily know where you're going, who you are, why you are doing what you're doing. And so their input is going to be based upon their filters, their value system, the reason for their doing what they do. And so as they overlay that on you, they're giving you the roadmap based upon their interpretation of where you should be going, because they don't understand the context of who you are, what you're doing, what your particular stake is inside of your marketplace. So you've got to be able to shut off the outside distractions in order to implement what you have come to implement. I like the scenario of the tree and the covered roots. For years and years and years, I used to say this statement, don't uncover my roots. Some plants, some trees do not like, and probably more don't like it than the ones that do. I know that there are some trees where you can do that with, you dig up, and I only know that because I've got a friend who has not a green thumb, but a green arm. And he says, well, yeah, sometimes you do that, and that actually helps the tree grow even better, So, but for this analogy, uncovering the roots, disturbing the soil, messing around with that, exposing the roots to the elements, to the sun and all of that, could potentially damage that tree. And so when a person is used to growing pine trees or avocado trees, they don't necessarily know what it takes to grow cedars and redwoods. So you would not bring that individual into your orchard to mess with your redwoods. Redwoods may take a long time to grow, but their longevity, they stay around for well over 1,000 years, and they grow well over 1,000 feet. And that's because they're left alone to do what they do. So you've got to understand what your roots are saying, what kind of tree you're growing, and who the experts are who actually understand the dynamics of that tree or those set of trees that you're working with. Let me pop back to setting yourself up for success, because I wrote this thing down right here, and I want to give this analogy because I think somebody is going to need to hear this. So let me say it. Okay, so in setting yourself up for success, the process of your preparation is going to take more time than your actual race. Now, you may have run track, you may have done some other sport, you may have done something that takes preparation. Maybe it's a matter of passing SATs or other exams, whatever it is. If you've ever had to prepare for something, you will know this to be true. That the preparation is going to take longer than the actual act that you're preparing for. For a sprinter, I used to run track. The workouts, the regimens that we used to go through, all of the things that we used to do to get ready for a 8 to 10 second race was crazy. But because we were fully invested in being in the tip-top shape in order to better our chances of winning that 8 to 10 second race, we did what we had to do in order to make sure that we were prepared. So we prepared for weeks on end. And then when we had our preliminary meets, we would go run against the opposing schools and continue to move forward in that process. It was a part of our process of just preparing, and then we had the race. Prepare, race. Prepare, test. Prepare, presentation. You can overlay that model on anything that you do that is going to be successful. There's a preparation that takes place prior to the actual event. And the event comes and goes. And if you were sufficiently prepared, you do well. If you were insufficiently prepared, you don't do well. So back to Abraham Lincoln's original statement. He would take 2/3 of his time preparing for the event as opposed to just diving into the event unprepared. Because diving in unprepared will take you longer to convince or to effect a change, and you may not be successful at it, mainly because you're dealing with blunt tools that do not have the ability to actually put a dent in your workload. I'm hoping that the information that I talked about today is hitting you in a place that you're saying, you know what, that actually makes some sense. I'm going to implement some of these things. Actually, I'm going to implement quite a few of these things. So let me give you some takeaways real quick. Tools. Isolate the tools, find the experts in your field, ask them what they're using, what the best tools are, and look at the top, medium, low range. Compare and contrast. Do all of the things that are necessary for you to do your due diligence to make sure that what you end up with, you could actually live with. Now, granted, there are times when you're not going to be able to afford that $10,000 piece of equipment or that tool, and that's okay. So then you just say, okay, well, can I afford the $2,000? All right, well, let me leverage that $2,000 until I can now make that $2,000 buy my $10,000. You see how that works? And so, yes, you will not be able to get all of the efficiency, all of the revenue or whatever that the $10,000 tool would have gotten you initially. You will always have that loss, between the time that you pick up the $2,000 tool and can leverage that to pay for your $10,000 tool. However, if you never get the $10,000 tool and you always stick with the $2,000 tool, never upgrade your skills, never upgrade your tools or anything like that, then you will always be at a deficit, always be playing catch up. So you leverage it in order to get your 10,000, but you just always keep in mind, I need to get the best things that can allow me to work efficiently as possible. Your setup is going to be crucial. Without the proper setup, you could have the greatest tools in the world, but if you don't have the foundation set, then those tools are not going to do for you what it is that you expect them to do. I have seen so many times folks grab tools, but they have nothing set up. So when they go to use the tools don't really do anything for them, because the tools are designed to work with inside of the construct of a system. It's a process. It's a component to your process in order to efficiently get things done. But if you don't have things set up, you can't efficiently get them done because you still have to take the time setting the things up. So you must take the time in the setup or the preparation, getting everything ready. It's like a domino, a big domino puzzle, or whatever you call those things. When you set the dominoes up, and then that way, when you're ready to hit that first domino, to have all the dominoes fall in position into the design that they've been configured in, it takes the time. They have to take a lot of time to set those dominoes up. And then when they press that first domino and all the rest of them go, it goes relatively fast. But it took them hours or days or months even, depending on how intricate it is, to set the things up. And then within a matter of seconds or minutes, it's all done. And if one domino is out of place, it disrupts the look, the overall effect, the presentation of the domino run itself. And then there's a big disappointment. So you've got to set it up properly, make sure everything is in place. And that way, when you hit that first one goes, and it now, as a chain reaction, sets everything else off. And it's a beautiful display. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you are, quieting your soul. In the whole process of quieting your soul, what ends up happening is you shut out all of the things that are going to take you off center point. That center point, that focus that you are aiming for, it is designed in order to make sure that all of your energy is going to that one point. It's not going to several points at once, because several points at once is going to render you ineffective. But if you can take all of your energy and focus it on that one point is going to now set everything else off. And it'll set you up to be able to repeat that process. You see? So it doesn't mean that you can't get the other things done. It's just a matter of getting them done in the order that's going to be the most efficient, effective, where you will be proficient. You see? So all of your energy in that one point, get that thing moving, and then once it's moving, you scale it, you've got it systematized, then you have it manned, and you man it by putting somebody else in place in order to now oversee it, to make sure everything continues to run smoothly, and you move on to the next thing after that. That's that whole focus aspect. What is it? Focus. Follow one course until successful. Follow one course until successful. One course. All right. So that is what I've got for you today. I'm actually quite happy that I was able to get through that in a manner that I think did it justice. Now, if you want to get in contact with me, or if you want to expand your business, if you want to see how you can take a system that's already in place, the dominoes have already been set up, and you want to put certain things in your business, in your income generating activities on autopilot. Let me encourage you to pop on over to askja.com/axe. That's AXE. AskJah, that's AskJah.com/axe. AXE. And that'll take you over to a system that I'm using in order to leverage and put on autopilot some income generating activities, while at the same time ushering the folks who come into my organization to learn how to market, how to expand their reach inside of their industries, and how to become more than proficient, but to learn mastery of their marketing process, their exposure process, and their expansion process. If you're that type of person who wants to find systems to use and to learn how to develop your own systems, then you're the type of person that I do want to work with and to show how to do this stuff. I'll show you how to syndicate your things so that you can be in many, many, many different places at once, and to get in front of an audience that is worthy of your time, energy, and efforts. All right, I'm going to close out with this song. I'm Jason Hodge, and again, that's askja.com/AXE. You have a great one.